Zok the Gemara. We're on Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis. The bottom line. Shalu Talmidav es Rapreide. Rapreide, his students asked him the question, Bameh harachta yomim. With what did you live such a long life? How long did Rapreide live? One second. Amalehem, so he answered them, Miyomai lekidmani adam lebeis hamedrash. My entire lifetime, no one ever came before me to shul in the morning. He was always there the first. Another thing, V'le barachti lifnei kayin. I never made a bracha to eat by a meal before kayin. The kayin always was ahead of me. Rashi brings in the pasuk v'kidashtoi. It's not only for davish b'kedusha that you give an aliyah to the kayin first, but it's also by a meal that you have to let the kayin eat first. The third thing, v'lo yachalti mibheima shlehomer matnisel. And I did not eat from a behema. There are certain parts of the behema. There's a zroya, l'chayayim, and keva, the cheek and the arm, or the different parts of the behema that have to go to a kayin. I never ate until I gave those parts to the kayin. The what? Who's the kayin? Rapreide was a kayin? No. No. He wasn't a kayin. He never made a bracha before a kayin, and he never ate from the behema until he gave the parts to a kayin. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Aser, lechem behema shleihom matnisah. You're not allowed to eat from a behema until you separate those parts that you have to give to the kayin. V'amar Rabbi Yitzchak said even more than this. If you eat from a behema before you gave those matanas to the kayin, ki'ilu eichel tvalim. It's like you eat tevel. Just like by the produce, you have to give meiser, and if you don't give the meiser, it's tevel. And by tevel, if you eat from tevel, you chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Same thing by the behema. If you don't give it to the behema, to the kayin first, so then it's like eating tevel. The Gemara concludes, "V'les hilchas ekavasei." We don't paskin like this halacha of Rabbi Yitzchak, but nevertheless, Rapreide was machmer to do this anyways. Another thing it said, "V'le barachti lifnei kayin." He said that he never made a bracha, he never went to eat before the kayin. So the Gemara, "Lememre de mal yusihi." Is this actually something which is good? Did he do the right thing that he didn't eat before a kayin? But Rabbi Yechanan said, "Kol Talmud Chacham shemevarech lefanov." A Talmud Chacham that allows someone else to bench or to make a bracha before him, so then afilu kayin gadol ha'ma'aretz. Even if it's a kayin gadol that it's a ha'ma'aretz that he allowed to bench in front of him before him, oisei Talmud Chacham chayiv misa. So this Talmud Chacham is going to be chayiv misa. Why is the Talmud Chacham chayiv misa? Shenemar kol misanai avu maves. That those that hate me, so they love death. So the Gemara darshans, al tikru misanai elamasniyai. Those that cause me to be hated. Which means as follows. A Talmud Chacham that allows someone to make a bracha before him, so what happens? People say, look, the Talmud Chacham doesn't deserve honor. Someone that learns Torah is not anything special. So therefore it's the Talmud Chacham that's at fault that allows someone to make a bracha before him. So what's the big mile of Rapreide? The fact that he allowed someone to make a bracha before him. So the Gemara says, Kika Mariu b'shavim. The mile of Rapreide was that there was someone else that was on the same level as him. He was a Talmud Chacham, and there was a Kayin Gadol, or Kayin that is. There was also a Talmud Chacham like him, and he allowed someone else, which was a Kayin, to eat ahead of him, because he was also a Talmud Chacham. Taisus over here actually says, when the Gemara says b'shavim, it doesn't mean literally that it was someone else that was a Talmud Chacham just like him. Because if then there's no chiddush in what he was doing. It says v'kidashtoi, that you have to sanctify the kain. If someone is exactly on your level, there's no chiddush in the fact that he let someone go ahead of him. A kain that is, go ahead of him. Elamai b'shavim means there was a kain that was also a Talmud Chacham. Not necessarily a Talmud Chacham like Rapreide, but he was also a Talmud Chacham. So Rapreide let him go ahead of him even though he wasn't mamash a Talmud Chacham like Rapreide.
So even the Kiddush goes when?
The Kiddush is when someone is on the same level as you, Talmud Chacham just like you. Then you have an obligation to have him go ahead of you. Rapreide was mahader even more. Even a kayin that wasn't mamish on the same level of him as him, he still let him go ahead of him. There's another interesting taisvus here before.
That hasn't answered the question. Then the Misana.
Yeah.
What? No, but it's a Misana is only if you let an Ama'aretz go ahead of you. If a Talmud Chacham lets an Ama'aretz go ahead of him, so then people will say, look, Talmud Chacham deserves no honor. So you bring a sinner to Davish Torah. As long as he's a Talmud Chacham, there's no problem of Misana. There's a thesis on the bottom of Chazayim Amud Beis that talks about what you mentioned before. How old was Rab Preida? So there's a famous Gemara, B'negei to Rab Preida, that says in Erevin that the mile of Rab Preida was that he had a student that asked him questions again and again and again. It was 400 times, I think it says there, and he always gave him the answer again and again. And because of this, he was Zeiche to live 400 years. Dalad Meim Shanim. So there, he was 400 years old. So there in the Gemara he says that the reason why he was old was because he taught Torah again and again and he never lost his patience. And here the Gemara doesn't bring that reason. So Taisva says, when our Gemara asks, B'meh Arachta Yomim, this was earlier, before he came to the age of 400 years old. This was B'chla, when he was an older person already, and they asked him the question, B'meh Arachta Yomim, and he gave this answer. But then later on, he lived to be 400 years old. That was already for a different reason. That our Gemara doesn't mention here. That's the reason, because he had patience with his Talmidim, and he answered them again and again.
We have a lot of work to do.
A lot of questions to ask?
We have a lot of work to do.
Sagt die Gemara, Shalu Talmida, was Rab Nachonye ben Akane, B'meh Arachta Yomim. With what were you zeicha to live a long life? Amalahem. So you answer them as follows. A few things. Number one, Miyameh niskabadati b'klein chaveira. In my entire lifetime, I never got honor from the embarrassment of my friend. And the Gemara will explain in a moment what that means. V'liyol sal mitasi kilalas chaveri. And I never had a klola of my friend that went with me on my bed. Shemar will also explain. And also, Vatran b'memayni hayisi. And I always gave up from my money. We'll see soon in the Gemara. Okay, so the Gemara goes through one at a time. What does it mean that I never took honor in my friend's embarrassment? So the Gemara gives an example for this. Like an incident that happened with Rav Huna. Dari mara kasfe. He was carrying a shovel on his shoulder. Also Rav Chana b'chaniloi. So Rav Chana b'chaniloi came, the kadari minei, and he wanted to take it from him to carry it on his shoulder for him. He didn't want to see Rav Chana, such a great Ameira, carrying this shovel on his shoulders. Amalei, so Rav Chana said to him, Iragilis, the daughters b'maseich, if it's customary for you that you would carry such a thing in your city, so dari, then you can carry it from me. But viloi, if you don't usually carry this on your shoulder, is yakuri ano, that I should get honor, bizilusa didach, with your embarrassment, that you're carrying it for me, leinichali. I don't agree to this. So this is the inyan of not getting honor when your friend gets embarrassment because he doesn't usually do this. Then it said, V'liyol sal mitasi kilas chaveri. I never went to sleep with the klala of my friend. What does this mean? Kehada mazutre, like Ramazutra said, ki have a salik lapurye, when he would go to sleep, so Amar, before he said, Sharile l'chol man d'tzaren. I am Meichel, I forgive anybody that gave me tzar today, I forgive him. That's what he said before he went to sleep, and this is the source of the nusach that we say today before we go to sleep. Right, Hareni Meichel, exactly. Vatram b'mamayni yisa, and I also gave up from my money. And what kind of a case is this? Damamar. So he said, Iyov vatram b'mamayni hava. Iyov was also gave up from his money. In what case did he give up from his money? Shayemaniach pruta lechem v'nim b'mamayni. He gave a pruta to the storekeeper from his money. So as Rashi explains here, Rashi explained this, so the Mefarshim actually explain, Rashi doesn't say over here, but the Mefarshim explained, the pshat over here is that in those times, they didn't have a coin that was under the amount of a pruta. So when you gave a pruta and you had to get change, so the storekeeper had to find some kind of an item to give you change for what you gave him. So he would give up the change. He would say, take the whole pruta, I don't need the change. Shal Rav Akiva Rav Nechunya Godel. Rav Akiva asked Rav Nechunya Godel. This is a different Rav Nechunya, not the Rav Nechunya ben Akana of before. B'meh harachta yomim. With what you zeicha to live a long life. What happened after he asked this question? Also Gavzi, those people that were serving there, this Rav Nechunya came, and they went and they hit Rav Akiva, they pushed him away. Because it looked like he was asking Rav Nechunya, "Oy, you're living so long, like why are you living so long?" Kilo, he's not even happy with the fact that he's living a long life. Salik. So then Rav Akiva went away, and Yosef Aresha de Dikle, he sat down on the top of a palm tree, and so that they shouldn't be able to reach him. Amalei, and then he said to Rav Nechunya, Rabbi, my Rebbe, I have a question for you. Imnema keves. It says in the Torah by a carbon that you have to bring a keves. Why does the Torah have to say one keves? Keves means one. Amalahu. So now Rabbi Akiva Rav Nechunya that is, heard Rabbi Akiva asking this question. So he said to his servants, Tzurme ben Rabbanan hu. He's a Talmud Chacham. Shafku, leave him alone. Don't let him ask me questions. Amalei, so you answer this question. The Torah adds the word echad to say, echad miyuchad shebe'edrei. When you bring a carbon, you should take the special one, the best one from what you have. And then he explained to him the first question he asked, how is he zeichet tarichas yomim? Amalei, he said to him, miyomai lekibalti matonis. I never accepted a gift from anybody. V'loi amadti al midoisai. And I also never stood on the principle of my midas, meaning this is when someone offends a person and you don't have to respond and you don't have to react. Vatram b'mamayni yisi. And also I forgave on my money. So the Gemara explains, Loi kibalti matonis. What does it mean that he didn't accept any gifts? Why not? Kihad Rabbi Lazar, like it says regarding Rabbi Lazar, when they sent him a gift from the house of the Nasi, of the leader of the Yidden in that time, he didn't accept the gift. Also when they invited him to come for a meal and so on, he didn't go either, because that's also a form of a gift, that they're giving him food to eat. And he said to them, you don't want me to be able to live? The pasuk says, someone that hates gifts will live. So if I don't accept gifts, I'm going to live. So Rab Zayde, when they sent him gifts from the house of the Nasi, he didn't take the gift. But when they invited him to come join them for a meal, also, then he did go. Omar, he said, they are getting honor by me being there. I'm not receiving a gift, I'm actually giving them a gift by being there. Then it said, he didn't stand up for his own midas. If someone offended him, what does this mean? Rava said, a person that forgoes, he looks away from the fact that people hurt him. The Eibusher takes away and looks away from all of his sins. Shanama, the pasuk says, Noisa Avain v'oiver al pesha. What does this pasuk mean? Lemi Noisa Avain. To who does the Eibusher carry and take away his sins? Lemi sha'oiver al pesha. For someone that forgoes people that hurt him. Shal Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Rabbi asked Rabbi Shua ben Karcha b'me'arachta yamim, with what were you zeicha to live a long life? Amalei. So he told them, Katzta b'chayai. Are you? Is it disgusting to you the fact that I'm still living? Why asking me this question? So they said, Amaloi Rabbi. So he said, no, my Rebbe Tairihi v'limud ani tzarech. I'm asking you because this is Taira. Maybe if I see the good things you did, I could learn from this and do the same. Amalei, so Rabbi Shua ben Karcha answered him, Miyomai lo nistakalti b'dmus adam rasha. I never gazed at the face of a rasha. Rabbi Yechanan said, Asala Adam listakel b'tzelem dmus adam rasha. You're not allowed to look in the face of a rasha. Shenemar, right, correct. Like I said before, it's when you're gazing, when you're looking, paying attention. Shenema, the pasuk says, this is a pasuk that speaks about, I believe, Elisha speaking to Yehoram. Yehoram was the son of Achav, which was a rasha. So Yehoram asked him to come. So Elisha says to him, Lule pnei Shafat, Melech Yehuda ani noise im abetelecha v'meraka. If not for the fact that Yehoshaphat, which was a tzaddik, that I carry, in other words, I'm going for him, I wouldn't go to you bichlal, and I wouldn't look at you. So you see that he was saying that he wouldn't look at him. Rabbi Lazar says even more so, Ein of Kahos. If you look at a rasha, your eyesight will be affected. Shenema, like we see it says, Vayiki Zokin Yitzchak, when Yitzchak was older, and his eyes were dim, he wasn't able to see properly. Why? Because he looked at Esav Rasha. That caused the eyesight to get affected. Is this what caused his eyesight to be affected because of his son Esav Rasha? But we learned, you should never take lightly a klala that comes even from a simple person. Avimelech cursed Sarah, v'niskayim bezara, and it was fulfilled by her son. Shenema, he said to her, Hinehu l'chak suseinayim, that this is a covering on the eyes. Al tikrik eksus elixia seinayim. This is something that will affect your eyesight. That's what he said. So what happened? She wasn't affected by it, but Yitzchak's eyesight got affected because of this klala from Avimelech. So the Gemara says, Havaha garmale. There were both of these things together affected the eyesight, the fact that he looked at Esav Rasha, his son, and the fact that there was the klala of Avimelech. Rava says there's another source that you shouldn't look at a Rasha, you shouldn't gaze at the Rasha, mehacha. Se'eis pnei Rasha loitoiv, that it's not a good idea to look and to look closely at the face of a Rasha. So this is all coming, what Rabbi Yeshua told Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, that is, regarding his life. Shas b'tirasai, so when Rabbi was leaving from Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Amalei, so he said to Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Rabbi, my Rabbi Barcheni, bench me. Amalei, so Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says to him, Yihiratzen, should be the will of Hashem, shetagia lachatzi yomai, that you should live the half of my lifetime. So Rabbi said to him, I shouldn't live as long as your whole entire lifetime? Amalai. So Rabbi said to him, so Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, that he said to him, no, because haboim acharecha, your children that come after you, behei meyiru. What should they do all this time? They're going to be shepherds of animals. In other words, as long as you're alive, so you're the leader, and what's with your children? Your children don't have any position, so they're just going to be shepherds. So if you pass away half of my lifetime, your children will get a chance to be leaders as well. Very interesting. Sagt the Gemara, Avua bar Ihi, Uminyamin bar Ihi. So these two Amiraim, I guess, that were sons of Ihi, so they're regarding what we said before about a Roshe. So the Gemara says, Chad Omar, one of them said, Teisili d'lo istakalti b'kuti. I deserve reward for the fact that I never looked and I never gazed into the eyes of a guy. Chad Omar, another one said, Teisili d'lo yavdi shutvis b'adikuti. That I deserve a schar for the fact that I never made a shutvis with a guy. Shalu Talmidei v'Rab Zeira, the Talmidei asked Rab Zeira b'meh arachta yomim, with what we use zeicha to live a long life. Amalehem, so he said to them, Miyomai lo hikpadeti b'toich beisi. I was never particular, I never was makbid, I never got upset in my house. V'lo tza'adeti b'fnei mi shegadol mimeni. I never walked ahead of someone that's greater than me. And also, v'lo yirharti b'muvois hamutunofos. I never thought words of Torah in the alleyways which are dirty, which are not, you're not supposed to think Torah there. I never walked 4 amas without learning Torah, or b'lei tefillin, and without wearing tefillin. And I never slept in the Beis Medrash, not permanently to sleep a long sleep, and not even a temporary sleep. I wasn't ever happy with something that I saw that was going bad for my friend. That's the girsa that Rashi here says. I never called my friend with a nickname, which means even a the girsa in the Gemara here is b'chachinose, which means even a nickname that is not a bad name. It's just a name that people are accustomed to calling him from his family name and so on. I never called him with that kind of name. And va'amri lo, and others say b'chanichasai, that I never called my friend with a nickname which is a derogatory name, which is perhaps has a bad sounding to it, something that's not nice. So this is what he was zeicha to have arichas yamim. This is continuing from what it said before. I'm going to get to the kedusha of a Beis HaMedrash. On the previous Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda said that when it comes to a Beis Medrash, so after it's charev, so you can sell it, or even actually it spoke about a shul that's not charev, actually, any shul. He says you can sell it to just use it as a courtyard, and then later they can go and use it for whatever they want. So over here the Gemara says another thing, Vaydam Rabbi Yehuda, Beis HaKnesses Shacharav, a shul that became destroyed, you're not allowed to make a hesped in that area for anyone. You have ropes, and you're spreading out ropes because you want to put together and fix these ropes. You're not allowed to do this kind of a work in that area. You're not allowed to spread out traps over there. You shouldn't put there on the roof fruits to dry. You can't make that area a shortcut to go through there. Shanama, the pasuk says, "V'hashimaisi es mikdashechem," which refers to the fact that Eibush is going to destroy the holy places, which means kedushasan af kishein shaimimin, that the kedusha is even after it becomes desolate and it's destroyed, but it's still called mikdashechem. And the Mishnah says, "Alu bayasavim." If this area where Beis HaMedrash or Beis HaKnesses was destroyed, if it was growing grass, la yitlosh, you shouldn't pull out this grass. Mipnei agmas nefesh, so that people should see the grass over there, and it should be a reminder for people what used to be here, and that now look what happened. Now grass is growing here, so this will remind people to daven to the Eibusher that they should rebuild their shul for them. We learned in the Braise, but when it comes to Beis HaKnesses and noegem bem kalas roish, you can't have any behavior there that's lightheaded or frivolous behavior. You don't eat there, you don't drink there, You don't beautify, you don't adorn yourself there. You don't take walks over there just to play around. You're not allowed to go into a shul because outside it's hot and going into the shul just to cool off, or or in the winter in the rain to go in to save yourself from the wet rain. And you're not allowed to use a shul as a place where you gather for a hesped for an individual. You're allowed to go into a shul, even though we're talking here about a Beis HaKnesses that's designated for davening, but you go there to learn, to learn from Chumash and Shainin, to learn Mishnayos. You can go there to give a hesped of a rabbim, which Gemara will soon explain what a hesped of a rabbim is. The Braisa continues. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, "Eimosai b'yishuvon." When is it that when you have grass over there? Talking here about grass. When you have grass growing there, so when the shul is standing, so then you pull out the grass. Aval b'churbanan. Once the shul is destroyed, manicha noisan. So then you leave the grass that's growing there, v'oilim b'masavim, and the grass grows tall grass. V'layitloish, you don't pull it out mipnei agmas nefesh, to remind people that they should have tsar for what happened here, so they should daven to the Eibishter about this. So the Gemara explains the continuation of the Braisa here. It's not clear how Rabbi Yehuda comes in when he says Eimasai. Fragt the Gemara, asavim man dachar shmayu. Rabbi Yehuda comes to talk about when you should pull out grass by a shul, when you shouldn't. Whoever mentioned this, the Tanna Kama wasn't even speaking about this. Why is Rabbi Yehuda saying Eimasai? So the Gemara says, you're right, Chsuri Mechsere is missing here in the Braise, V'hachi Ketani, and this is how you have to read it. That in the beginning of the Braise it said, Umechabde Noisan, that you have to sweep the shul to keep it clean. Marbitzin Noisan, Marbitzin is those times when the floors were not finished floors, they were earth. So they would sprinkle some moisture on the earth that the sand shouldn't come up in the air. So they would do this and kedei shelo yala b'masavim, in order that it shouldn't grow any grass inside of a shul. It's not honor, it's not b'kavadik for the shul. And on this, Rabbi Yehuda, Eimasai, when would you make sure that there's no grass growing in a shul? B'yishuvam, when the shul is settled and it's built. Aval b'charbana, when a shul is destroyed, manicha noisan lalis, you allow the grass to grow there. All ben asavim, and if it grows grass, la yitlish, you shouldn't pull it out. Mipnei agmas nefesh, so people should have tsar when they see this. Amar Ravasi said, Batik Nesir Sheba Bavel, the shuls in Bavel al Tnai Hein Asuyin. They were built with a condition that they should be able to use it for other things other than davening. So the Lachatchila made that condition. But Va'afal Pikain, so even though you are allowed to use it for other things, to eat there and to drink there and so on, but Ein Neugen Bem Kalas Reish. You're not allowed to do things that are just light-headed behavior that don't belong in a shul. Mind you, for example, what's called Kalas Reish? Cheshbainis. Person in the shul comes and makes calculations, whether it's business calculations or whatever, cheshbainis, that doesn't belong in a shul. Amar Ravasi said, Beis HaKnesses, shemachashvim by cheshbainis, a shul that you make your calculations in it, malinin by esames. So you leave a dead body there overnight. So the Gemara asks, what is this supposed to mean? Malinin salketaitach. This means that you're supposed to leave a dead body there in the shul overnight. So the Gemara says, no. What he meant to say is that loisagi de lav hachi, that it will happen. That if you make these cheshbainis, and that's what you use a shul for, you mistreat the kedusha of a shul, this is going to end up happening. L'saif shi'elina by meis mitzvah. In the end, there's going to be a meis mitzvah that will be there overnight. Then we said, Ve'ein noisim ben, a shul is a place where you're not supposed to adorn yourself. So Amar Rava, Chachamim, v'talmideyim, the Chachamim and the Talmidim that are always in the shul learning there, mutaran. For them it's allowed. The Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, my bei rabbanon. Why is a shul called a bei rabbanon, which is the place where the rabbanon are? Because basically the rabbanon, this is like the house of the rabbanon. That's where they spend their entire day. So for them, this is their house. They're allowed to adorn themselves there. And l'chayre, it also means that they're allowed to eat there. This is their place. This is their house. Then it said, you're not allowed to go into shul when it's hot outside or when it's raining outside. So Gemara brings a story. They were standing outside and they asked a question from Rav and they were discussing things and learning. Also, a big downpour of rain came upon them. What happened? They went into the shul. So then they explained and they said, This that we went into the shul, la mishum mitra. It's not because we were trying to save ourselves from the rain, from the wetness, or whatever. Ela mishum d'shmaita, bayit silusa. It's because in order to be able to discuss the subject of our sugya, so you have to have clarity, you have to have a clear day. Kiyomid Istan means like a very clear day, so you shouldn't be disturbed so that we could think clearly. So the rain that came, we pasha couldn't learn. So we went into shul to be able to learn. If a person has to call someone from the shul, so what does he do? You're not allowed to stand walking to the shul for no even. So if you have to call someone from the shul, so what do you do? So he said to him as follows: So if he's a Talmud Chacham, so let him go into the shul and let him learn the halacha. So then he can call someone. If he could learn Mishnayos, so let him say a Mishnah when he goes into the shul. If he could read from Psukim from the Torah, so let him say a pasuk when he goes into the shul. And if he can't do any of these, then when he goes into the shul, let him tell a child that's there, tell me a pasuk of Torah. Inami, or at least what he should do is nishi porta, let him sit down and wait in the shul a little bit, and then he can get up and go out. But you're not allowed to stand walking to a shul to call someone and walk out.
The more you know how to learn, the more you have to.
That's what it looks like, yeah. That's what it looks like, yep. Then it said, we had before... Right. That's what it seems like. If it's a hesped of a rabbim, that's allowed to be done in a shul. What is considered to be a hesped that is rabbim, that is many that are gathering for this hesped? Machvir Rav Chisda, so Rav Chisda showed Kagon Espede the Koi Be Rav Sheshes. If it's a hesped that Rav Sheshes is present there, so then there's going to be a rabbim there. That's a kind of hesped that can be done in a shul. Machvir Rav Sheshes, and Rav Sheshes showed and said Kagon Espede the Koi Be Rav Chisda. A kind of hesped that Rav Chisda is present there, that's a hesped that there are many there and it can be done in a shul. Gemara brings over here that Rafram aspeda lekalase. Rafram came and he gave a hesped for his daughter-in-law. Bebeik nish, they did it in the shul. Omar, he said, Mishum yikara didi, because of my honor, udemisa, and because of the one that passed away, that also her honor, also kuli alma. Everyone is going to come to this hesped. So this is a hesped of a rabbim that's allowed to be done in the shul. Rab Zeir also gave a hesped for one of the Rabbanah that passed away in the shul. Amar, he said, Imishum yikara didi, either it's because of my honor that many people will be here, Imishum yikara didei demisa, also kul alma, or because of the honor of this Talmud Chacham that passed away, everybody's going to come, so this could be done in a shul. Reish Lakish sabdei lahut surbe mirabanon. Reish Lakish gave a hesped for one of the Talmidei Chachamim, the Shchiach ba'aradi Yisrael, that was in Eretz Yisrael, and he said in his head, the Havetani Hilchaseh, and this Talmud Chacham, he would teach halachas b'chov dalet shurasa, and he had students in front of him in 24 rows. So he came and gave a hesped for him. And Omar, he said, Vai chasra ara Yisrael gavre rabba. Look, wait to Eretz Yisrael that this great person passed away. This was the story with Reish Lakish in Eretz Yisrael. On the other hand, Ahu da Havetani Hilchase Sefri Tosefta. There was this individual in Bavel that learned all the halachas and the Sefra and the Sefri and all the Tosefta, the Braises, and Vishachiv, he passed away. Also, Vamrele Rav Nachman, or the Bach says Rav Nachman B'Bai Yitzchak, they came and said to Rav Nachman B'Bai Yitzchak, list b'dei mar, let the master come and give a hesped for this Talmud Chacham that passed away. Omar, Rav Nachman B'Bai Yitzchak said, hey chinis b'dei, what kind of a hesped should I say in him? Hi tzana, the moli sifri the chaser. Look, this basket that's full of svarim passed away. That's not, I have nothing to say hesped on him. Rashi explains that could be he learned a lot, meaning he knew all this knowledge of all of these Mishnahs and Braises and so on, but he didn't really understand them properly. He didn't learn the Gemaras, which explains and answers the contradictions that you find from one place to another. So yeah, he was like a bookcase full of svarim, but he really didn't fully understand what he was learning, so he didn't want to give him a hesped. So the Gemara says about this, Tochazi, come and see, Ma ben tkifi d'ardi Yisrael. What's the difference between the strong and the great Tanoim in Eretz Yisrael? The Chasidi de Bavel and the Chasidim in Bavel. Reish Lakish, which was in Eretz Yisrael, he had no problem. He gave a hefset for this Talmud Chacham that passed away that taught Torah. Rav Nachman B'Bai Yitzchak in Bavel, he didn't want to give a hesped. So it's a different kind of anhage in Bavel. Tanan Hasam, we learned over there in the Mishnah in Pirkei Yavis. or the shtamish betaga chalof, someone that uses, he has someone that learns halachas, and he uses him to serve him. So then chalaf, you pass away for having someone that learns Torah to serve you. Tana Rish Lakish explains that someone that learns halachas, which is kisra shel Torah. The halachas is the crown of Torah. So if you use someone that learns halachas, so then you can pass away. This is something that Alter Rebbe speaks about in Tanya also, that halachas is the crown of Torah. You have in Torah a lot of different levels, different inyanim. The halachas, which is the ratzon of the Eibush that comes out b'poyel over there, that's the highest thing of Torah. Nula said, what happens if you need to use someone and you don't have a choice? So l'shtamish inish b'mandatoni arba. So you should have someone serve you, a person that learned 4 of the zdarim of Mishnayis, but v'loy l'shtamish b'mandamastin arba. But don't have someone serve you if he's a person that's mastin arba. So there's 2 pshatim with this. One pshat is someone that learned the 4 zdarim of Gemara, not just the Mishnayis. Another pshat is masni, means that not only he learned for himself, but he also taught others. Rish Lakish, a story happened with him that he was once going on the way. He came to this pool of water and he couldn't pass through. So Asahu Gavre, this person came along, and he took him on his shoulders. He was taking him through this pool of water. Amalei, so Rish Lakish asked him, Karis, did you read from Torah, the Psukim in Torah? Amalei, so he said, yeah, Karina, I did, I learned from Torah. Tanis, did you learn the Mishnayis? So he said, yeah, Tanina Arba Sidri Mishnah. I learned 4 zdarim of Mishnayis already. Amalei, so Rish Lakish said to him, Pasalta Locha Arba Turi. So you carved out for yourself 4 mountains, those 4 zdarim of Mishnayis that you learned. V'tanis Bar Lakish HaKasvech. And you're serving me, you're carrying me on your shoulders. Rish Lakish was upset about the fact that someone that learned this Torah is carrying him. So he told him, Shadi bar lakisha b'maya. Throw down the Rish Lakish into the water. Amalei, so this person said to him, Nicheli dashmin lamar. I'm happy to serve the master. If so, mini ha milsa. So let me teach you this halacha. Rab Zera said, Benois Yisrael, the daughters of the Yidden, they were stringent with themselves. Even if they see a tiny drop of blood, like a little mustard seed, or just because of this, they sit 7 days, they wait 7 days until they go to the mikveh to be clean. So Rashi explains that Be'emes Minat Torah, there's no such a thing. Minat Torah, so first of all, there's what's called Dam Nida, Dam Ziva, and the whole thing of 7 days is really only when you're a Zava. And really only when you see 3 days consecutively, then you become a Zava and you have to wait 7 days. So this whole Chumrah of waiting 7 days when you see one dam, this is Mamish a Chumrah that's not Minat Torah at all. Elamai, Rashi says, there could be a situation where a woman had to wait 7 days and it came to the end of 7 days. What happens if you had 7 clean days? And then at the last day, you saw dam again, so you have to start counting again the whole 7 days. So because there is a scenario where even a small little bit of dam, you'll have to wait 7 days, so they were always machmer 7 days. Or Rashi says there could be a situation where you see blood and you don't even know, could be you saw blood the day before and the day before also, and you don't know about it. So there could be a scenario you would have to wait 7 days, so they were always machmer to wait 7 days. This is the source of this whole Indian today of a kesem. If you have a stain of blood, that you have to wait 7 days. Tana de Be'elu. The Gemara finishes off that the Be'elu said, Kol hashayna halachis, and the girsa here that we add, like we say every day, Kol hashayna halachis b'chol yom. If you learn halachis every day, muftach leishu ben olam haba. You're guaranteed to be a ben olam haba. Shenemar halichos olam loy. Al tikra halichos ela halachos. Don't read it halichos, that's what gives you the olam, but rather halachos. When you learn halachos, that's what gives you olam haba. And the Rebbe brought this in the Taich, the way it is al pichsidis, the dafka, the halachas of Torah, it gives you the emes halicha, that you can go on a higher level, you can be mekayim the rotzen elyon in this world, and you can go be'ein aroich, and a real halicha, that's the halachas, that's halichas, it's both, they go together, the halichas and the halachas.
Did he throw him off the shoulder or not?